Good morning, my name is Lange, and today I'm going to talk to you the breakdown of crimes that are perpetrated by young people in the internet, how to prevent it, how to educate young people in order not to commit such crimes. My name is Lange. I have been working for security and safety for over 20 years, privately and privately. At present, I'm the head of cyber threat hunting team in Standard Chartered Bank, and I also lecture at universities. And at night, as it was mentioned, I'm analyzing cyber criminals market in Poland and in abroad. This is like my hobby, and it furnishes me with resources to share with you at various conferences like ours today. This is the podcast. This is the podcast that can be also visited, Rozmowa Kontrolowana. This is a discussion forum for security experts in Poland and worldwide, and I think that you would find it interesting to listen to. This is the meme that was fitting into the situation. Daddy, you forgot to pick me up from school? And who is it? Who is it? So very often parents do not control children, young people appropriately and what they do in the internet. So what is my agenda for today? We'll have a brief introduction, then we will touch the core of a problem that we fight. I will identify to you the regions in the internet where the young cyber criminals perpetrate crimes and what for and how. And then about prevention. I'm not a school teacher. I lecture at universities, but I don't have this exposure to high schools or primary schools. So, of course, I do not have any say on the content of curricula, but I hope those tips might be useful for you, especially in IT classes. Young people tend to commit crimes more and more often. Those that were exposed to the internet from the very birth moment, they are equipped with entirely different tools than we. For instance, when we read on papers that someone called the school to say that a bomb was planted or a fire broke out and the school needs to be evacuated, nobody is doing this on telephone line anymore. This is done by internet, consciously and unconsciously, because some of the criminal activities are not really classified as criminal activities in the minds of young people and children. The internet gives us the sense of impunity and being anonymous. For young people, they read at length about various methods of anonymization, such as application of a Tor or hiding behind someone else, and due to lack of technical skills and capacities, it is a fiction. They are not anonymous, and as a result, they need to bear the consequences of what they have done. Speaking about consequences, those young people do not realize the consequences. They are young enough and they don't realize that what they have done may impact their life, their prospects, their professional advancement. So education will be very much needed to teach them about potential consequences of what they have done. What are we fighting against? If you look at cybercrime as perpetrated by young people, the taking over of accounts of their peers is one of the most extensive activities or most frequent activities that is committed. So what for? What for? Well, to get into chats, to get hold of pictures, chats, and to read certain gossips, like call to girls, talk on chat on a subject, and they want to take control of someone else's account. And if you break into someone else's account, you can know more, and this is the temptation. So this is the attempt to seize data, to eavesdropping in a way, to eavesdrop in a way. And the pretending to be someone else. This is close to cyberbullying. This is close to the intention to start an account, to start a dialogue that might lead to some particular consequences. So this is very often used by young people in social network. Then the abuse of data that has been seized once one has broken into someone else's account or has pretended to be someone else. And then being in control of such data may lead you to a blackmail attempt. So you have a pool of information, pictures, images, and then you want to ridicule a person. So this is what young hackers may be driven to obtain by profiting from the fact that they have broken into someone else's account. The other thing is online games, not so much the classical gaming activity, but online games. And here the purpose of taking over someone else's accounts is to rob the proprietor of the account of some minerals, gold, whatever the commodity is, whatever the young children are playing. So this is like a mini theft situation, an attempt at an account in order to purloin certain commodities from your peer, or taking over of accounts in order to block someone so that one cannot continue and have a better result. And the attempt at blocking someone else's account may also lead to invalidation and to it may be pure malicious activity too. And of course these are penal actions, and they can be punished. So if you steal something from someone, even in the virtual reality, this is provided for in the criminal code. So if you report about such an activity to the police will find the appropriate legal basis to punish a child or his or her parents. Small extortion, another interesting topic. I started seeing that especially in the days of pandemic, when you are stuck on computers, the pool of minor small-scale extraction has grown. So there are certain perpetrators who want to obtain small amounts of money via the BLIC code or any other method. And extortions of small amounts of money in the advertising services, so it's like 20 up to 50 zlotys. So this won't be any amount that would fall into the provisions of a criminal law, but it does happen. This is really happening in real life. This is like a piece of conversation where the son of my friend wanted to buy in one of the advertising services access to the internet online game account, and PaySafe card received the payment due. This was to the tune of 20 zlotys, if I remember correctly. And once the 20 zlotys were transferred, this account was blocked by the thief, and the kid was short of 20 zlotys. It's only 20 zlotys, like €5, but this may pull up to substantial amounts of money, and these are extortions that are perpetrated by children at the detriment of other children, selling games, selling access to accounts taken over, and these are sources of profit. Also, seizing the access or taking over the access to someone's email account or Facebook account or any other portal, and this is then offered on the market. Young criminals want to sell it to someone else. So in this particular example, this account probably never existed, but some accounts whose access are on offer are accounts that were stolen, where they have obtained the login and passwords of the user, and this is offered against small amounts of money. And finally, crimes concerning microtransactions within the games. So if you need to recharge your purse in the game, there are small amounts of money involved. So there are like petty coins or any other tenders of exchange, and they are used also by the fraudsters. So, for instance, I will sell you the petty coins for the play of FIFA coins, and you will pay me 20 zlotys. So this is also something quite universal. And then we come to something more earnest and more grave. And here I would like to show you the presentation that was prepared by Krzysztof at the Semaphore conference, where there was breaking into the Wola hospital by a teenager, and very similar scenario was used. Young criminals sometimes are not very skillful, but they have certain competence in the basic functionalities. So they are tempted to break into various systems and to abuse the systems. But let's listen to Krzysztof, who is relating for you from the very beginning this virtual burglary and communication with the fraudster, because the criminal felt scot-free, but you will find out what happened. Another serious crime perpetrated by young people and children, young people more than children, because this is more sophisticated, is phishing. So log in to services that provide such services as streaming, Spotify, Disney+, Netflix, and trading with the taken over accounts. So this is the entry point, the trading in stolen access, and this is done in the internet fora, in the internet groups, but this is also available in famous auction or sales platforms, where you can simply buy access to such streamlined services. Let's say that Netflix is, say, 50 zlotys per month, and you can buy access to Netflix account at 5 zlotys in various services. So this is a major difference, isn't it? So it should really be ringing, should really be alerting someone, why is it so cheap? Why does it come so cheap? So this is another temptation for young people, just to trade and earn money. In the previous link of Krzysztof's, the Krzysztof Krzysztof's short film will tell you the story of a young man who wanted to use the hospital's infrastructure in order to extort certain money from Spotify. This was a teenager, and you will find out more about it when you see this little film. And cyber anarchy, something that is gathering momentum in Poland. So this is like alerts, like young people provoke bomb alerts in schools, kindergartens, and recently at the first day of school, we had a number of instances of such false alerts. I do not know why young people would do that. I have no slightest idea what drives them. In the past, this was a way just to postpone a test or some difficult exercise, and they were calling schools with fake alerts of bombs or other explosives. And right now, this is just to create havoc, and very often, if we look at who is involved, it is teenagers. It is teenagers. They think they are anonymous, but some of them have been identified already. Cyber anarchy is highly detrimental, but it tends to attract young people online. And then we move upward in the escalation of crimes, being part of organized criminal group, again, consciously or not consciously. Consciously, if a young person, perpetrator, knows he or she is committing a crime, participating in a fraud, and that this is penalized activity. So one joins a group of criminals on one's own will with the intention to perpetrate crime. And there will be also unconscious perpetrators who think they take part in the affiliation program, or that one is earning additional money through transfers or through performing activities, because on one of the portals one read that you can have a quick 100 zlotys per day. All you need to do is da-da-da. And there are young people who are quite captive and participate in such groups. What you can see on the screen is the very popular fraud involving cryptocurrencies and OLX advertisements that were put up by organized groups in order to perpetrate investment fraud. Sometimes young people think that this is part and parcel of an affiliation program, but then they are redirected to some third site, and if you recommend it, you will earn money. And some of this is simply a fraud, and the scenario will develop differently. And it really attracts young people because apparently they think they are not doing anything bad when they open new websites, and they are part of an affiliation program. Money laundering. Young people often unconsciously take part in money laundering, not knowing that there is nothing like a free lunch in the world. And they are tempted by various social media, social services, and they sell their own data, or they sign virtual agreements online. They have an impression that they were legally employed, and actually they are just used as fake operators, and the only way for them is to continue to work consciously for such a criminal group, or if they have been discovered, this is the only way to cleanse them of all the involvement with criminal groups. And there are also other crimes involved, like violation of copyright law, piracy, and piracy is fading away. It was a plague of the 90s, and at the beginning of the 21st century, now that we have good anti-piracy installations also for online gaming, it no longer pays. But now and then they are tempted by torrents to download various copyrighted songs or films, and they do not realize that this is a violation of law and that it is penalized and can produce harsh consequences on them and on their parents. And finally, hate crime and cyberbullying. This was mentioned during yesterday's proceedings of this conference. This is a massive problem. It is related to the previously enumerated crimes such as extortions, taking over of accounts. This is a real conversation. Mind you, this is the same person whose son was tricked into buying access to the game account. And here he was bullied online, and there were like punitive threats that were to be penalized, and a child who thought that it was not to be punished engaged in such hate speech, and the parents reacted immediately. The perpetrator was identified, but it turns out that he continues to be very difficult, and it will take a very long time for his parents to work with in order to realize that such crimes are not to be condoned. And what we can do as parents, how to fight this phenomenon, and what can we do? This is a very difficult question. In my mind, there is nothing like golden mediocre, and there is no place, there is no single way that would put an end to all such crimes and would reset the child's mindset or imagination or lack of imagination. The only idea I had when preparing this presentation and following what is happening on that market, IT classes must change, might perform a whole U-turn. It's not enough to get kids sat in front of a computer to teach him or her some word basics or paint creation. No. This needs to be like exploration of the internet world from the beginning to end, including crimes and the consequences that the crimes will entail. Another thing is that educators, but that can be parents as well, teachers, parents, whoever is in charge of education, they need to comprehend this technology. And this is a problem because on many occasions parents or teachers will not understand how the matter they are teaching, and they don't know how to protect their children. Let's have a look how many of adults will be easily falling victims of various malicious software, false investments, phishing. The adults do not know how those schemes work, so how can they possibly teach their children effectively? So educating the adults or educating children via adults, via educating adults, this would be most desirable in order to minimize the risk of all the cyber crimes.
Informing about temptation in the digital world, we have to make young people aware that the temptation of making money easily or gaining access to something at a low price and in a completely anonymous way is misleading and may not be true. And victims of these can also take part in perpetrating bigger crimes while taking part in some minor activities. We should also be able to inform young people about the true consequences of their activities. We have to show them that if you break into your friend's account on Facebook, this may lead to appearing in front of a court, being prosecuted, or it may lead to your parents being prosecuted. This is something that may have lifelong consequences. So sometimes children are unaware of the fact that they are committing crime, but if they do commit a crime, they will face consequences. So, for example, if they want to be employed legally, especially in jobs that concern security, information about them having committed a crime will be in their record, and it will make such a career impossible. So we have to inform the parents to tell the children that certain things stay forever. Information about crime appears in it is published by the police force, it is published on the internet. The internet never forgets, and it also never forgets about the crimes that were committed. So it is important to observe, to monitor, to talk, and to intervene when necessary. So we have to watch young people's behavior. So if we see that a young person is suddenly becoming more and more affluent, they have money that exceeds their pocket money, they suddenly appear with a pair of new sneakers that cost €100, this should be a warning signal for a parent. They should start watching the child more closely, trying to check where does this money come from, because maybe, just maybe, your child is becoming involved in some criminal activity. And also if we see some behaviors that are reason for concern, if a child is suddenly very secretive, spends too much time in front of a computer screen, talking to such a child, observing this child more closely, would help us to protect this young person from temptations that are there in the internet. And then we would have to intervene, because when we see that either our child is a victim of cyberbullying, or if we hear from our child that his or her friends are planning something stupid, there is no time to just talk or observe. We have to act. Sometimes if you notify the police, it resolves the problem quickly and it puts an end to a situation, which saves not only the victims but sometimes the young perpetrators as well, because they will be afraid to commit crimes. Again, I am against frightening children, but if they feel some fear, they will be less inclined to start or to embark on a criminal activity. So this is all from me, and should you have any questions, you are more than welcome to get in touch with me. You can write me an email. I'm also present on Twitter. If you want to hear about other crimes perpetrated by young people or about any other topic, you're more than welcome to get in touch. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. This has been very educative and also very much needed. Towards the end, you spoke about what you would recommend for grown-ups to do. And our participants wrote in the chat box that computer classes at schools could perform a very important role here, and they should touch upon these matters. And also, I believe it is very important to teach children and young people about economics, because they should know that they should not have things for free. And if something is too cheap, it is suspicious. Yes, and we should also take a good look at computer classes that are given at school. Young people will always fall victims of such fraud because it is only human nature to be greedy. So if you are offered something at a low price or for free, you want to go for it. So they should know that you need to stop and think before you embark upon a certain form of activity. Yes, indeed. Our participants wrote that they would like to find out more about the subject of your presentation. So Madam Olga wrote a question: what are the other sources of such information? Could you recommend some literature, or how to find out more about criminal activities of young people? Well, it would be good to read internet portals that deal with security. Sometimes they do not specifically speak about young people's criminal behavior, but you can find out information about this and build a picture about that presents the situation. And I'd be more than happy to also be a point of contact for you. So if you need more information, get in touch with me. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking part in our conference. Usually you take a part in specialist conferences, and today we are dealing more with the realm of education. Thank you.